Early in the morning, it gets me from my sleep, way before the sunlight makes the sky. Catching a bow on a homemade hopper makes my day complete. Oh, there's magic in the rise, and I'm going fishing in the morning, gotta catch the early light. I'm going fishing for a feeling I get when the fish bite. Oh, I gotta say my prayers, roll down the covers, kiss my wife goodnight. I'm going fishing in the morning, gotta catch the early light. Out on the river, in my favorite fishing hole, troubles are cast out with the line, and the fly lands on the water, and the fish begin to roll. In heaven they don't have.
That's it, man. I mean, honestly, like I had my rod packed up and ready to go. I was like, Ken, we gotta go, because I didn't think you guys were gonna come down this far, because we knew we'd gone pretty far. So I started hiking back up, and then I saw you guys. So we got back up, and Thon got in, and I got down in below, way down at the tail out, and I hooked another fish, just a monster fish, way bigger than the first one. Such a big old fish, dude. Oh my God. Oh, there he goes. He's gone. Do you see him?
Yeah. What happened?
He came unglued, dude. That thing was huge. That was awesome.
I got a hold of Stumpy, and Stumpy says, I said, where are you guys? And he says, we're around the pool with all the fish, very subtly, and I thought he was being very sarcastic. And he goes, I gotta go, Jess has got another one on. And a few minutes later, we caught a hold of him again, and he said, yeah, we've hooked 3 and landed 1. And then a few minutes later, he said, Jess got another one. He hung up again.
Yeah, and then I threw a dry fly. After my third fish, I went up and I saw this fish that was totally rising. And I couldn't believe it. These fish are they're just lined up in there eating dry flies like they were trout. They're eating those big green drakes. Dude, we got to camp here. We got to throw dry flies in this hole.
And got done with that, and then you guys came up the bank, so I said, well, I'm gonna go over there, I wanna hear the stories, you know. So I crossed the river, got over there, listened to everything, and was totally stoked that we got some big fish on film.
And it's long. I mean, it's the most beautiful water we've seen yet. Like, of anything that we've seen since we've been here. It is the most beautiful water. The teeniest little riffle of current. And the drakes came off, dude, and they were fucking this tall on the water. Like, giant, like the biggest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Dude, seriously, cat puke style. Anyways, crescent moon all the way up behind me and jumps like 4 feet out of the air exactly between me and the camera.
Oh my God.
And he's like 9
so
pounds.
These were hot fish.
Hot, pissed off fish. Eating dry flies like trout.
I was all ready to pack up and come to camp, and Josh says, so are we gonna fish this other pool down here? And my cameraman says, are we gonna fish? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll fish. But the first time I had a little tap, and I set the hook and there's nothing there, and I assumed it was a rock, so I lengthened another couple feet, did the cast again, and boom, hit it, set the hook, and I felt the throbs immediately, and there was a fish on. And it was, you know, it did a few big jumps, but it stayed in the pool, and it was, you know, I don't know if it was tired from running the rapids to get up there or what, but it didn't go crazy on me, so it was easy to land, and which was good because I was by myself back there, and it was hard to land a fish with a 13-foot rod. 3 casts later, another couple feet back behind that rock, I finished my swing, and I just started to strip, and I got to my second strip, and I just got freight trained. Like the fish was going in the opposite direction. And as soon as I set the hook, it was running. I lifted up, and it was just, and I felt the backing knot go through my finger, just, and I was like, oh. man, I'm already in my backing. You know, this is trouble. Running as fast as I could. And after about the first 100 yards, man, I was just panting, trying to catch my breath. And I got in a spot where I could pick up some slack. It seemed like the fish had stopped running and was holding in a pool. He had me S-turn through some rocks. So I'm trying all different angles to get it loose, and finally just got to the point where I need to break it off. And so I reeled down, cranked down the drag on the CLA as tight as it would go, held the reel, and just started graining line and just stretching, and I had a snap, and my fly line broke. So I lost my complete fly line with about 40 feet of running line left. So all the head, everything's gone. So that's the first time I've ever lost a fly line on a steelhead. Oh, fighting butt on the Scott rod and the Skagit running line snapped in half.
It kicked your ass.
That's your Skagit that I got you last year?
Yeah. Gone. Update. Today was a good day. Today we hooked 7 fish. And bigger fish, which is good to see. And all in all, we're feeling pretty good right now. Really, really good. And we think we found some really good pools. Just found some really good pools downstream with a long hike. And we're going to move camp tomorrow and go pull on some more big mugs down there, hopefully. Bob found some mushrooms that he thinks he knows what they are. And we're going to try those for dinner. I'm going to opt out and be the guy who has a sat phone to call for the helicopter if all goes wrong. We're going to break out 2 bottles of wine tonight, enjoy the 7-fish day, and celebrate the loss of my Skagit line. All right, on. Yesterday, we came down river again for the second time. So this is our 3rd campsite, and these are the pools that Jess had fished a couple days ago and had such great success. So we bolted down here, got down here, set up camp. I fished these 2 pools above camp late afternoon yesterday, and then went down river. We swung wet flies all the way down, and then when we got to the pool right below camp, that's when Nick and I saw it.
Yeah, when we first showed up, I saw some, there was obviously drakes going on, and unlike the ones we get in Montana, only except in certain areas, these drakes are coming off every day.
So the hatch was happening right there, right in front of us, and it was our opportunity. This is why we came up here on this trip, and so everybody switched up. We all started throwing dead drift dry flies.
Almost instantaneously, every fish in the river is keying in on this bug at the same time. And they're rising right at your feet with total disregard of your presence.
But they're coming up and they're just like, they're swatting at it like a small trout does.
Yeah, so Jess had seen a glimpse of this a couple days ago, but this was really the first time that all of us had got to see this together, and it caught us totally off guard, and we weren't able to capitalize on it. So I'm just hoping we get another chance. After dinner, we went down to fish the pool one more time. I was swinging a spay fly with a trailing hook. Just There's a big rock right in the center of the run that's sort of just breaking the surface. And a big buck just right in front of the rock, took it right where he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Got him. Oh, big.
And when I first had him up to the bank, thought maybe we were gonna land him, he made another run all the way across the pool. I was really worried he was gonna wrap me around the rock again.
He's making his run. Look at that. He's all the way back down the
It didn't feel like it was that big of a fish at first, and ended up being a really big buck, and he was just beautiful. A couple big double red bands, the biggest fish I've got so far, and he was a fabulous looking fish.
Hold.
That's a big steely. Oh, man. I'm ready for bed. This was good tonight. That was awesome. Oh, it's a beautiful fish. God.
Once you get caught on waking a fly, I guess it's just really kind of tough to say there's any better way to catch a steelhead, because that becomes quite addictive.
But I mean, imagine, you take a floating line and a little dry fly and throw it out and swing it around in the current, and the fly is the same exact size fly you use for a 10-inch trout, and a 20-pound steelhead comes up under it. It's pretty awesome. But in the whole scope of steelhead fishing, that's a method that, if here's the whole scope, that method is only good this much of the time.
I'd rather catch one on a dry than I would 3 on a 4 on a wet fly. In fact, I'd rather just raise one on a dry than I would catch one on a wet fly.
Sometimes a fish will come up behind the fly, not even break the surface, just boil. And your fly kind of gets rocked in a big wake. And your heart just really beats because you think, boy, you're just really keyed up. The fish didn't want the fly, he refused it, he turned away. So just the refusal, just knowing that fish was there, is pretty exciting.
And if I can get a rise out of a fish doing that, it's pretty far out. Each fish makes it different. Some of them make 2 or 3 passes at the fly, which, can shake anybody up, no matter how hardened they are to holding on to the rod. And then sometimes they come up underneath of it, just like a spring creek trout, and a big waking fly will just fall down in a golf ball hole.
Occasionally. I mean, there were fish that were, as I worked down through that pool, there were fish rising, and I would cast for those fish. But yes, I did fish specifically for that fish. You mean with Paul sitting next to me laughing hysterically?
There seems to be a lot of pressure on you.
Apparently, yes. There seems to be.
I'm not sure if it's pressure, but just a lot of...
well, there's expectations, of course.
Expectations.
It sucks not catching fish. That's how it feels.
You know, the basic rule is that if you can get down in there when the fish haven't been messed with, you know, and they haven't been harassed by fishermen, you know, you got a better chance of catching fish. So we gave Nick the first crack at the pool this morning, and he fished the entire way through it, and took my advice about getting out in the river further.
Today I woke up and I had breakfast, and I walked down to the river, and after like another hour of casting, I actually hooked fish here.
Someday we'll finally rest on these cold and lonesome nights. I'll open up my window so it takes flight. Fly over far off lands. We'll sink to the bottom of rolling seas. We can meet out in the open. The salty tears appease the ocean. When I awake, I'll have the token images of you and dreams we spoken. 'Cause our love can hold what the memory folds. Your ghost is a silhouette, always close. You're always on my mind. White lights out of focus. White lights out of focus.
I was a long ways away. It was just nice to see his rod bending and, you know, something on the end of it besides a rock.
Turned out that it was just a nice little small steelhead, and a good one to cut your teeth on, I guess.
And it was a relief to finally catch a fish.
Yeah, I went down the cliff side of the pool, or the ledged out side of the pool, and it's a little bit deeper right on shore there. And I thought, since it was still morning time and the light was low, that it was my best chance to try and get a fish on a dry fly. So I put on a waking tube fly, one of my waking tube flies that I created, and started just swinging that through the pool. And then as I got towards the bottom third of the pool, it was water that nobody had covered yet. I was waiting and waiting, and then I saw his nose come up and closed down, and he wasn't there. He'd missed the fly. I turned around, I looked at the cameraman, I looked at Bob, and I said, "Did you see that?"
Oh, dude, you see that? Yeah! Yeah, dude, he hit it twice, man.
Finally found a pocket where he was tired out, and we slid him up, and again Bob grabbed him, and I mean, there's my dry fly fish, you know, on the waking tube. Just a gorgeous big another buck steelhead with a double red band. He was stunning, man. It was just awesome fish. You know, I can't believe how lucky we've been, man. I mean, to find this many fish, to actually be moving downriver and bump into the big boys like this, it's just been fabulous. I'd still like to get down there. Yesterday, you know, we had fish eating dead drift drakes, and I want to try and catch that. You know, I want to try and get a fish to come up and eat a dead drift dry fly.
We had lunch, and then it was kind of confusing who was going to go downstream, who was going to go fish the bucket, we'll call it now. And so it was decided that I think me and Paul were going to go downstream with Josh to go, find some new water. And so we're walking down, and we see fish rise. So, I like go, "Hey Paul, if you see some fish rise, are you gonna fish for them, or are you gonna keep going downstream?" So I was, "I'm gonna fish for them." when that happened, Jess and Thon were on their way down. They saw it happen, and you could tell he was just really anxious to get his fly in the water as well, because Paul's hooked up on a dead drift dry fly.
This is Joe Beach.
Dude, Jess is hooked up.
That is just a beautiful fish.
Oh, here, dude, turn him sideways right here.
He ain't so happy.
Dude, Thon is up.
Caught you back, caught you back.
At that point, I'm standing there, and there's between me and the other bank, like lined up in a row, are 3 fish eating, and I'm just standing there, just waiting for my turn, basically. Like, took me like 4 or 5 casts. I pulled the first fish off shore for me in.
But that was good to see Thon like in his element, so sort of, you know. He hasn't swung a lot of flies for steelhead, but I mean, he's dead drifted for trout his whole life, so I think he kind of felt like I can do this. You know, I know the way this game is played, and he did it.
And then it was Bob's turn, and Bob went on for a while, and he missed one on a sunk. It was like just barely sunken and starting to swing, and he missed one.
I took some casts, you know, it was a long cast, and I just blew it on a couple casts, and my fly got hooked on a tree, and you know, I was kind of into watching it, taking photos. Yeah, I would love to have hooked a fish. I'm glad one came up for my fly, you know, to show me that I could still catch a fish possibly. But it doesn't bother me. You know, I'm thinking of the photos I took and what they're gonna look like, you know, in the finished form.
So it's
that kind of keeps me going.
In the meantime, there's a fish that's risen like 2 or 3 times downstream on the far bank. And Jess starts wading out there and up to his chest, you know. The fish hasn't risen for like 10 minutes. We've only seen it twice, but we knew the general vicinity. First cast is a little parachute cast, drops it, lets that comparative float down. And we're like, I don't know, 50 yards away, and you just see this big head go. And he's got it. I mean, he's, you know, he has it. He tries bringing the fish all the way back across the river to land it where, and it came undone, just unbuttoned.
Yeah, that one hasn't risen since we walked up there.
dropped it, first cast, just let it dead drift down, just he eats it. Fish on. You know, not a huge steelhead, but a beautiful fish again, dead drift. I'm just blown away, and again, land that fish. While I'm landing that fish, the big fish that I was waiting for rises. Just makes like 2 or 3 casts to where that fish rose. And the fish was huge, huge fish.
I was waiting and waiting, and we knew this fish had been set up over there, and I waited to look for him again, and finally I was just like, screw it, and I threw the dry fly out there, and he ate it again, and this one came back, stood almost completely on his tail, falling backwards, and ate my fly out of the water. There's nothing I can say about it. It's just startling. Hello, buddy. Oh, what do you think of that?
What was it? I mean, that was amazing. That was amazing. It was amazing. Thon gets the rod, they shake it up, they get it ready to float. Fish rises. Thon puts the fly out there. And that fish was a big fish. It took off, ran downstream. Thon got his first big run, big steelhead. And he just came unbuttoned. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I've caught a lot of steelhead. I've fished a lot of steelhead rivers. You know, this kind of stuff's not supposed to happen.
A run of water that you've been fishing all day and haven't seen anything in, all of a sudden has gigantic fish eating dry flies off the surface, going in every direction. So as far as steelhead go, I mean, in trout, that happens all summer long somewhere. You can find that. But with steelhead, it just doesn't happen.
It seemed like once you found a fish, you were going to catch it almost. It was going to rise to your fly if you got it in the vicinity of the rise.
There was no enticing going on, you know? These fish were keyed in on eating drakes.
To see all those fish rising like that is just something that, I'd be lucky never to see again.
It's hard to believe, you know? It's like seeing a ghost. You can't believe what you just saw.
So as a young person now, you don't have a choice. You don't get to behave casually and carelessly like we did, and just fish and then that's it. Let somebody else take care of it. No, you have to take care of it.
Inform people of what steelheading is, what it can be, and how we can maintain it.
That's the only way steelhead or fisheries are going to be maintained, are if those of us who are kind of getting gray and getting old can pass that concern on and have this next level of younger folks be enthused about steelhead and be enthused about why it is important to keep them alive for their future.
I really do hope that there are wild steelhead populations that you can catch and release fish in. And if there are, they're probably going to need your help or assistance or knowledge of basic issues and commitment to doing something more for them than simply chasing them with a fly.
I just think that, you know, steelhead are like a lot of other creatures on the planet. They're under attack. There's not a lot of them. That's what like makes them valuable in the first place. Askina is the last stronghold, one of the last strongholds, not the last strongholds, but one of the last mighty undammed rivers with lots of big steelhead in it. Do we want to see it go the way of the dodo? Make up your mind. You know, is this worth saving? Don't screw with it. Don't put in a dam. Careful with your extractions. Don't have mineral exploration in the headwaters. So we've got to come to those decisions. What's it worth? Is it worth money? What's it worth?
If we don't make some critical decisions right now, this wonderful sport and this wonderful animal are going to be lost. I have no doubt about it.
It's like anything else in life. You better pay attention to the old people if you want to learn something.
We're sleeping dogs lie if they're so inclined. And swinging thingies may induce tight lines. So lucky, so lucky, so lucky. Let's take a break and take the time.
The steelhead in this film, like all wild steelhead, have acquired specific genetic traits which allow them to survive in their home rivers. Man's biggest impact on these fish has come from dams and hatcheries, changing the structure of the river and the genetics of the fish. Currently, wild steelhead populations are down to just 2% of their historic abundance. Civilization has damaged or completely eliminated some of the world's best steelhead runs. Government wildlife administrators continue to push hatcheries as the solution. By limiting natural genetic diversity, steelhead are losing their ability to adapt and survive in the face of environmental change. It is imperative we change stream management policies to support naturally reared fish. This is the only way to assure the survival of the wild steelhead. Team Flyboys continues to do our part for the conservation of wild steelhead and other species, and for the preservation of this sport, which we hope will thrive for generations to come.
Let's keep the name of the rain inside parentheses to keep the weather from taking your weekend away. To keep the weather from taking your weekend away. To keep the weather from taking your weekend away. On two, back on my shoe. We took a drive into Yellowstone Park. What a lovely way to spend a day. The drive is nice and the company is beautiful, but I lost my phone and I gotta pay. So I'm breaking down. Gotta buy myself a new cell phone. $200 so I can make a call. Verizon's got me by the balls. I wouldn't mind, but I got to do. My home phone ain't got no two. So I guess I'll spend that $200. Now I'm getting the feeling that I'm getting 'cause I'm breaking down. Gonna buy myself a new cell phone. $200 so I can make a call. Verizon's got me by the balls.